Hello. So today I want to do a video on how to choose whether or not to stay in a relationship and also how to know that it is actually okay to choose to leave the relationship if that's what you choose. So I am not married, but I am in a long-term relationship that I've been in for about 4 years. And as a coach, I've had the privilege and the honor of getting to live through lots of different relationships and marriages through my coaching clients. And something that I keep here coming up, especially for women, is that they have guilt around even considering the possibility of leaving that relationship because they believe that that consideration in and of itself is something that is unfaithful and is a betrayal to their partner to even consider. And what I want to say is that by us not being willing to consider what it would be like to be separated, we're actually doing a big disservice to our relationship. And this video especially goes out to moms out there who feel like they do not even have the right to consider leaving the relationship because of the impact that they anticipate that that would have on their family. And also to women who are in marriages or who are in partnerships where you don't have kids, but you feel so emotionally responsible for the well-being of your partner that you feel guilty even considering the possibility of leaving the relationship. So what I want to say here is that when we do not consider what life would be like outside of the partnership, then we actually become the victim of the partnership, the victim of the marriage, the victim of the relationship, because we get into this mindset of being resigned about our relationship because we act as if it's the only choice that we have. If you've been in a relationship for long enough where your friends and your networks are so interconnected, maybe your finances are interconnected, your families are interconnected, it feels like you don't even have another option but to stay in that relationship. And as soon as you think that you don't have a choice, you become the victim of that circumstance. And automatically there's going to be some residual level of resentment and frustration and anger that exists because you are not at source. You're not actively choosing that relationship for yourself. So in order to fully choose a relationship for yourself, I say that it is necessary to consider both options and to know that both options would not only be tolerable, but would also be wonderful. So I think that if ever you're in a relationship where you believe that if you were to leave that relationship, life would suck, you automatically are disempowered in your relationship. You automatically are the victim of that relationship. Now, a lot of people think, well, if I knew that my life could be wonderful and extraordinary if I left this relationship, then why would I be in it in the first place? Aren't I only in this relationship because I think that that is what is going to make my life wonderful and extraordinary? And I think that that is so, so, so wrong. When we are truly the creators of our lives, we know that the common denominator of every circumstance in our life is us. It's not the circumstance that makes it great. It's not the person, it's not the relationship, it's not the finances, it's not the job, it's not any of that. It is us. It is us being the source creator of our lives and choosing to make that extraordinary. So you have to know for yourself that you have the power and the capacity to make any circumstance in your life be wonderful, and that your happiness and your fulfillment and your success is not conditional upon this person that you are with. If you do think that your happiness and success and the well-being of yourself and your partner and your family is conditional upon you two staying together, then you don't really have freedom in that relationship because you're resigned to being in it. Right? Again, you're the victim of it. It's like you're not actively choosing it. You believe that that is your only option, and so you're resigned to that option. And as soon as you think that you don't have another option, then you stop creating. You start going into default of what you think it has to be like. And that's when the resentment starts to build. That's when you become the victim of your relationship and you start just hating it and resenting it and being frustrated that you don't have any other option. So I really encourage all of you in relationships and partnerships to take some time to think about what your life would be like if you were not in that partnership, and to do so from a fully created space. So the exercise that I like to use for this is, I stole from Kyle Cease. He calls it Kylegoing. Project yourself out into a future in which you are not with your partner and act as if that future has already happened. So pretend that it's 2 years from now or 5 years from now, and talk about how extraordinary your life is, even though you're not with that person. And really fill in the details and really embellish and really talk about what it's like. Be like, wow, the past 5 years of my life have been so extraordinary because I chose to separate from my partner. And we did so in such a loving, forgiving, accepting way where we actually get to love each other and be even more supportive of each other now than we ever got to be in our relationship, because we now are two fully empowered separate entities that get to contribute to each other rather than one entity that's comprised of two half people. And really talk about how extraordinary and how amazing that time has been since the separation. Get into creative mode, like really get your juices flowing and get into a space where you see that you actually do not need that person in order to be happy. Because I believe that if you don't know that you can be happy on your own, then you're in a dependent relationship, and that relationship cannot be fully empowered, and you're going to resort to some form of manipulation to keep that person in that relationship. And then you're not really free and they're not really free. So really take some time to ideate around what it would be like to separate. And even if you have kids, talk about how wonderful and extraordinary the separation was for your kids and how you got to be a demonstration for them of what it looks like to choose yourself above all other circumstances. And you got to teach them that through the separation, they actually get to be more loved than they ever were when you guys were together. Because now you both are even more empowered, more sovereign, more independent beings that both get to love them and radiate even more love towards them. So really create around how all aspects of your life flourished through your separation. And now, some of you might be thinking that, well, if my life would flourish through my separation, then doesn't that mean that I should separate? No, that doesn't mean that, because the second part of this exercise is for you to project yourself 5 years out and imagine what it would be like if 5 years ago, meaning right now, you totally reconstituted and recreated the whole context of your relationship. And no matter how long you guys have been together, you wrote new vows for each other. You made new promises for each other, and you really distinguished who you wanted to be for each other in your partnership. You had a ceremony around that, and you really got into creative mode and created what you wanted your relationship to be like, rather than thinking that you had to be in it and that it's your only option and that you must resign yourself to this frustrating relationship. So the second step is for you to get into creative mode around what it would be like for you to stay with your partner and talk about how amazing that would be and how your life has flourished in the past 5 years because you stayed with your partner, and how juicy and incredible and amazing that has been, and how many discoveries you both have had together. And I think that if you can get to a place of seeing that both of those options would be extraordinary because you are the creator and you are not resigning yourself to any default story around whether or not you should or shouldn't stay with this person, and you can really create both of those options, only then are you truly free to choose which option you want to take from an empowered place. Only then can you truly choose the relationship from a place of free choice, not from a place of victimhood, not from a place of resignation, not from a place of frustration, not from a place of cynicism, not from a place of apathy, but from a place of you knowing that no matter what circumstance in your life you're given, you're going to make the most of it. And you don't need this relationship in order to have a wonderful life. Once you know that, then you can really choose the relationship, not because you need it, not because you have to have it, not because it's what you must do, not because it's what you should do, but because it is what you choose. It is what you freely choose for yourself. Out of all possibilities that you could have for yourself in your life, your relationship is what you choose. And in order to really be able to create both of these possibilities to the point where you know that either would be equally good, it really requires us to let go of these shameful, fear-based stories that we have around being selfish, especially as women, although I'm sure this also applies to men. I just don't happen to be a man, so I don't know as much about that. But I think especially for women, because we're the caretakers and because we feel emotionally responsible for the well-being of people around us, we feel guilty imagining a future in which somebody significant in our life is not in it. But what we have to get real about is that being selfish, quote unquote selfish, is sometimes the most selfless thing that we can do. Choosing ourselves above all else is actually the most compassionate thing that we can do with our lives. Because every time we don't do that, every time we choose to stay in a relationship or a partnership or a friendship that isn't truly serving us and our highest good, we're teaching everybody else around us that that's okay. We're teaching everybody else around us that it is okay to put yourself last and to put other people's needs above your own. And that's not doing a service to anybody. That is just perpetuating this belief in collective consciousness that it's selfish for you to be a free, independent, sovereign being that doesn't need anybody else, right? That's not selfish. That is the most selfless thing that you can do. I mean, I think that being selfish and being selfless are actually way more interconnected than most of us believe. So this process of really creating around these two different futures and coming to see them as equal and equally infused with possibility, it really requires us healing a lot of these collective conversations. The collective conversation that it's wrong for a mother to leave her husband or her partner because that's doing a disservice to the family. That's absolutely not true. That is a fear-based conversation that has kept women subordinated and suppressed for so long now. And it's time that we take responsibility for that conversation and we really heal that. That conversation is like a leech that needs us to believe in it in order for it to stay alive. And it's sucking our lifeblood. And as long as we give credence to that belief, it can stay alive. But as soon as we say, hello belief that I'm selfish if I leave this relationship, I see you. And guess what? You're not mine. You are not mine. I never chose you. You attached yourself to me because I was born into a world in which this conversation existed, and I never chose you. So you're allowed to be there. You're allowed to stay in my awareness for as long as you'd like, but I want you to know that I am not choosing you. I am not possessing you, and I'm not giving you any power. And once you can do that, and once you can see and identify all of these fear-based beliefs that are keeping you in circumstances in your life that you are not fully 100% choosing, then, oh my gosh, your life is going to feel so much more free and empowered. And just know that in order for you to really choose a relationship, it means that you have to choose every single aspect of it. Choosing is not a 50-50 thing. Choosing is not even like a 99% thing. You either fully choose something for all that it is and all that it isn't, or you are not choosing it at all and you are being the victim of it. Anywhere that you're even being the victim of something 1%, you are completely being the victim of it and you're not choosing it. So this isn't to create more fear or more shame. This isn't to blame anyone. We all are the victim of something in our lives. This is for us to see that where we can accept and admit to our smallness, that is actually our greatness. That is actually our access to power. When we identify that we're being 1% the victim of something, 1% the victim of our relationship, that is when we're standing most in our power. Anytime that we think that we are completely transformed and completely healed, then we're actually being in our smallness because we're no longer willing to look for what is next for us to transform. So hopefully this video was valuable for you all. Remember, it's not selfish for you to choose to leave a relationship, and it's not a betrayal for you to imagine what it would be like for you to be on your own, and it's not insulting your relationship to realize that your separation would be really empowered and wonderful and filled with possibility. That's not an insult to your partner. That's not an insult to you. That's not an insult to your relationship. That's actually a huge compliment that you can give your relationship, to realize that even though you could choose anything, even though you could choose to have a wonderful life by yourself or a wonderful life with another partner, even though you know that that would be extraordinary and fabulous and wonderful, still you're choosing your relationship, not because you have to, not because it's the lesser of all evils, but because that's what you choose out of all options presented. Okay. So again, I'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to comment below and let me know what you thought of this video, or reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is Brandilyn_Tebo. I want to be doing a lot more of these coaching videos, so send me a message and let me know what you would love to be coached on next time. Thanks for watching.